Why do some people move through the world with a quiet presence, choosing never to share their faces or their private moments on the digital stage? In a world that constantly demands visibility, where our value is often measured by the frequency of our updates and the clarity of our selfies, there is a growing group of individuals who have chosen a different path, the path of the unseen. This choice is rarely about being antisocial or having something to hide. It is not necessarily a sign of low self-esteem or a lack of confidence. Often, it is a deeply rooted psychological response to the modern pressure of being watched. To understand this behavior, we have to look past the surface level of privacy and peer into the complex machinery of the human mind, the need for authentic experience, and the subtle ways we protect our inner peace from the noise of public judgment. Think about the last time you saw something truly beautiful, a sunset that turned the sky into a bruise of purple and gold, or a quiet street covered in fallen leaves. The modern instinct is to reach for the phone, to frame it, to capture it, and ultimately, to share it. But for the person who doesn't post, that instinct is replaced by something else. There is a psychological concept known as the observer effect in physics, where the act of observing a phenomenon changes the phenomenon itself. In psychology, we see a version of this in our daily lives. When we view our experiences through the lens of how they will appear to others, the experience itself changes. It becomes a performance. Those who refrain from posting their photos often do so because they want to preserve the purity of the moment. They want to be the sole owner of their memories, keeping the observer effect at bay so that their joy remains theirs alone, untainted by the expectation of likes or comments. This silence is often a form of emotional self-regulation. We live in an era of social validation loops, where our brains are trained to seek dopamine hits from external approval. Every like is a tiny nod of agreement. Every comment is a confirmation that we exist and that we are seen. However, this creates a precarious internal state where our sense of self is constantly being handed over to others to evaluate. The person who doesn't post their photo is often someone who has intuitively realized that internal stability cannot be built on the shifting sands of public opinion. By staying off the digital grid, they are practicing a form of psychological autonomy. They are deciding that their face, their body, and their experiences do not need a rating to be valid. This isn't about hiding, it's about holding on to oneself. There's also the matter of the digital mask. We all know that social media is a curated gallery of our best moments. But even knowing this, the psychological toll of maintaining that gallery is immense. The pressure to look a certain way, to portray a specific lifestyle, and to keep up with the visual trends of the day can lead to a fragmented sense of identity. We start to see ourselves as a brand rather than a human being. Those who choose not to post their photos are often resisting this fragmentation. They prefer to be a whole person in the real world rather than a perfect person in the digital one. They understand that a photo is just a flat, two-dimensional slice of time that can never capture the depth of their actual existence. By not posting, they avoid the trap of comparing their messy, beautiful reality to the polished, filtered versions of everyone else. We must also consider the comfort found in anonymity. In many ways, being unseen is a luxury in the 21st century. Constant visibility can feel like a weight of subtle but persistent pressure to be on. For some, the act of not posting is a way to create a sanctuary. It's a boundary that says, this part of me belongs only to those who see me in person. This builds a deeper sense of intimacy with the people who are actually in their lives. When you don't broadcast your life, the people who know what you look like today or what you wore to lunch are the people who were actually there with you. This creates a circle of trust that is small, tight, and incredibly grounding. It's the difference between having 1,000 spectators and having 5 true witnesses. Sometimes, the choice not to post comes from a place of profound contentment. There is a psychological theory that those who are most satisfied with their current reality feel the least need to prove it to others. When you are truly immersed in a conversation, a meal, or a landscape, the idea of stopping to take a photo feels like an interruption. The silence on their profile is not an empty space. It is a space filled with the richness of being present. They don't need to post a photo of their coffee to enjoy the warmth of the mug in their hands. They don't need to post a selfie to feel beautiful. Their validation comes from the experience itself, not the digital record of it. For others, it is a protection against the comparison trap. Our brains are wired for social comparison, an evolutionary trait that helped us find our place in the tribe. But our ancestors were comparing themselves to 20 people in a village, not 20 million people on a global network. This scale of comparison is unnatural and often leads to what psychologists call status anxiety. Stepping out of the visual competition, these individuals are opting out of a race that has no finish line. They are choosing to define their worth by their character, their actions, and their inner growth, rather than their aesthetic appeal or their ability to fit in with the current visual culture. There is also a quiet wisdom in recognizing that some things are too precious to be shared. In the world of self-wisdom, we often talk about the sanctity of the inner world. There are thoughts, feelings, and moments of vulnerability that lose their power when they are exposed to the cold light of the internet. By keeping their photos private, these individuals are protecting their sacred space. They are acknowledging that not everything is for public consumption. This isn't about being secretive. It's about being discerning. It is about knowing the difference between what is public and what is personal. When we see a profile with no photos, we shouldn't assume there is a lack of life. In fact, there is often an abundance of it. There is a life being lived without the distraction of angles and lighting. There is a mind that is free to wander without wondering how its thoughts will be received by an audience. There is a heart that finds its beat in the quiet moments of the day rather than the loud notifications of a screen. This silence is a choice to be here instead of there. It is a choice to be now instead of forever. In the end, the psychology of those who don't post is often a psychology of freedom. It is the freedom from the need to be liked by strangers. It is the freedom from the pressure to perform. It is the freedom to change, to grow, and to age without a digital archive holding you to who you were 5 years ago. It is the realization that your existence is not a content stream, it is a sacred, private journey. And perhaps, by looking at their silence, we can find a little more permission to be silent ourselves. To put the phone down, to look at the world with our own eyes, and to realize that we are enough, even if no one is watching. The beauty of being unseen is that you are free to be anything. You are not defined by a single image or a collection of pixels. You are a moving, breathing, evolving soul that is too big for a screen to hold. And in that realization, there is a profound sense of relief. You don't have to be visible to be valid. You don't have to be shared to be significant. You just have to be.